All right, guys. So, this came across my timeline the other day, and I wanted to bring it up. I find it hilarious and kind of sad, if I'm being honest. So, Jordan Peterson tweeted the following: "Hey there, Antifa clowns and masked cowards. A bit of a history. Fascist is from the Latin fasces, which means bind together. Corporate government and media collusion is fascist by definition. Why then don't you protest the World Economic Forum? Answer: that's the fascism you adore." And so, friend of the show, Vosh, responded and said, "Antifa has long proclaimed its allegiance to the World Economic Forum. This is true."
Right, right.
Like, I don't. Okay, so here's and there was one other tweet I'll mention now, and then we can discuss it a little bit. But somebody tweeted the following. This is not Jordan. This is somebody who he responds to.
Okay.
"It is the explicit goal of Marxism to destroy our existing society and replace it with a new one. That's why it feels like everything is falling apart wherever you find wokeness or progressivism. It's not incompetence. It's the destruction is deliberate." So that's a very, right-wing dude making standard right-wing point, right? Lefty's evil, Marxism evil, whatever. Jordan quote tweets that and says, "Wrong. It's the explicit goal of Marxism to destroy society. Period. Full stop." I guess the reason why this stuck in my craw is because why don't you take people who have different views seriously? And even if you
Right.
disagree with it, disagree with it on grounds that are reasonable. Not like all my enemies are the epitome of evil and they're satanic and they want the world to implode and that's their goal. You know that's not their goal.
Right.
You could even argue, hey, I think that's a consequence of the ideas you want to implement. But trying to look at it from their perspective, you would say, no, they think this is actually going to fix society and make society better and make society more just and make society more fair. You could say, here's why I think it won't work out like that, but that's obviously their perspective and what they want to do.
Right. It's just such a caricature, such a fake caricature, too. The World Economic Forum one really gets me, though, because
There's not a single lefty who likes the World Economic Forum, period.
no, and what's hilarious to me, too, is I feel like Peterson and some other types like him, they'll just generalize about the left, and they'll mean liberals, they'll mean leftists, they'll mean the whole gamut. And they'll ascribe to everybody, the exact same views. So maybe you have some, corporate, Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema types that are cozy World Economic Forum. And they'll just be like, it's everybody on that side of the spectrum that loves the World Economic Forum. And then they've also the World Economic Forum conspiracy, and we've talked about this before, it's out in plain sight. You have a bunch of billionaires and industry titans and bankers and world leaders who get together and basically, first of all, try to sort of whitewash their crimes and pretend like they care about anything with morality. And then behind the scenes, they're making deals about how they can continue to accumulate more wealth and more power. Okay, that's what's going on. It's very apparent. It's very out in the open. But there's this attempt by the right to construct this alternative conspiracy where it's they're actually Marxist who want people to have nothing. I'm like, no, because then they don't make any money, right? That's the whole idea, is for them to extract as much wealth and funnel as much wealth, plunder as much wealth into their own bank accounts. And us all having nothing and buying nothing, that is not part of their plan here, guys.
Marxism is about social ownership of the means of production. It's about social ownership of the means of production. Everybody in the room at Davos, that's the last thing they fucking want.
Absolutely.
Because they own the means of production.
Right.
So it's weird because they sort of invert the conspiracy. It's so funny. They're posturing like they're so against everybody at the World Economic Forum and they're so against everybody at Davos.
Right.
And they do posture like they are. But the fact of the matter is, Davos is a status quo protection racket.
Yeah.
And the kind of policies they love are the kind of policies that Donald Trump implemented. Massive tax cuts for the rich, massive subsidies, globalization where we outsourced 200,000 jobs under Donald Trump because of his policies.
Yep.
And a lot of these people support those policies.
Right.
As they virtue signal I'm against Davos and Antifa is for World Economic Forum in Davos. Guys, okay, and you know what else drives me crazy? I'm sure you've heard this before too, about how Antifa, the Democrats are working with Antifa or Antifa supports the Democrats. Ask literally any member of Antifa and they'll be like, we hate both parties.
Yes.
We hate both parties.
I also feel like that, the Antifa thing, it was super hot on the right during the George Floyd protests. This is a way to be it's violent thugs and all this stuff. And there's this grand conspiracy and this enabled this helped to justify Trump's almost military crackdown on the protests because you had this, secret left-wing violent mob that was coordinated across the country. And I feel like the Antifa talking points have really fallen off, since that time. So I also feel like he's behind the curve in terms of the current right-wing cultural discourse.
He's with the Daily Wire now. And so when you're with the Daily Wire, you know what your job is. You know what you were hired for. Let me bash the left and bash even Democrats and liberals 24/7.
Yeah.
It can make sense. It doesn't have to make sense. It's just throw mud against the wall and see what sticks. Look, here's my point. If you are not even engaging with your opponents at the level of digesting the Wikipedia article and then reacting to it, it's like I have a real problem with that because you can't stand there like I'm the paragon of intellectual honesty. Right. And, hey, to his credit, when he talked to me face to face, it was much easier to push back and sort of flesh it out. And there were good exchanges there, right? But when he's just like screaming into the void, he's got this total caricature and total straw man of anybody on the left. And it's beyond laughable.
I also feel like, he says in his interviews plenty of things that I'm like, oh my God. But I do feel like his Twitter is the worst.
Yeah, he's very unhinged on Twitter. Yeah.
Simplistic, like black and white, just dumb, unnuanced perspective.
His big thing is climate change now. Yeah. He's really leaned into that whole thing.
Well, I've seen him talk recently where, he was even like laying out this is the left view of the world that, I wouldn't say it was accurate or fair, but it was a lot more nuanced than just like they want to destroy society and they love the World Economic Forum. So
it just
capable
it drives me crazy.
More nuance. But
yes, if
not
I
on
can,
Twitter, apparently.
if I can engage with right-wing ideology, various flavors of it, in a way where I can actually repeat to them, this is what you believe, and now I'll react to it.
Yeah,
that's the way you got to do it. You can't do this goofy stuff where it's like you're just it reminds me of the thing that's been happening over the past 2 or 3 weeks. This renewal of the satanic panic from the 1980s.
Yeah.
Where they look at Sam Smith performing at the Grammys. Oh, he's satanic. They look at Rihanna. Oh, she's satanic.
Wearing red. Oh my God.
And you've heard Michael Knowles and Benny Johnson, a lot of these people have flat out said like leftism is like Satanism. And it's like, what are we even doing here?
Right.
Like, do you realize that you're doing like a WWE version of politics? And they might. Maybe I'm the sucker for taking everybody seriously at face value at their word. But maybe they realize like I am doing a WWE type thing. And I'm playing the role of the heel. And you know what I'm saying? Because none of this is honest engagement. None of it at all. And I can't imagine being in the audience and listening to these people and going like, yeah, that's my guy. That's my kind of commentary. What an epic rant.
Yeah.
Because it's insulting to your intelligence, man. Even if you are on the right. This stuff is insulting to your intelligence.
I feel like when you're on the left, because we live in like a right-wing nation, like in terms of the economic system, you don't have the luxury of just, totally characterizing it or caricaturing it and dismissing it in that same way. Whereas because socialism is this sort of like mushy concept that's been very effectively turned into a boogeyman, and Marxism and all these things are just very esoteric, and they can turn it into whatever they want and then just dismiss it. They can turn it into, and that's why they love the World Economic Forum, and that's why it's Satan, and just dismiss it.
It's all so dishonest. It's just so dishonest. Yeah. I mean, when you talk about Marxism, there is no like single definition, but you could talk about Marxism just in the sense that it's the critique of capitalism, or it points out the contradictions of capitalism. And regardless of what you think of Marx, there were plenty of critiques of capitalism that he made that were absolutely spot on and empirically provable.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
Like when you talk about socialism. When people talk about socialism, there's the term how they use it colloquially, where they just mean like government stuff, the police, the fire department, the whole spiel, Social Security. Then there's other ways people talk about it, where it's like worker-owned co-ops, or it's state-owned enterprises like Matt Bruning. But like these are interesting, amorphous, detailed, complicated, complex terms and definitions and ideas. It's like, they want us to destroy society. That's what it is.
Yeah.
They want to destroy society. That's what it's all about.
Stuff that's bad. That's as detailed as they're willing to get.
Pathetic.
All right, guys. Excited to talk to David Sirota of The Lever. As I said, they've done the best and some of the only, frankly, reporting around the train derailment in East Palestine that actually looks at how we got to this place and what we could do different in the future. Also holding our current Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg's feet to the fire, which is much needed. Let's get to it.
If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.